Yes, welcome to the Biz Communication Show. I'm your host, Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy, once again hosting a business communication expert so that you and I can learn tips and strategies that will boost our business as we participate in this conversation on YouTube or on podcast. Welcome to the Biz Communication Show. And our guest today is one who happens to be operating from my base, that's Gainesville, Georgia. It's a pleasure to introduce Britt Sawyer, founder of Sawyer Media Group. She's been in the marketing industry since 2012. Her passion for helping businesses and contributing to her community began once she graduated from college and started her career at a marketing agency. After gaining vital professional experience, Britt started her own creative marketing collective. She has demonstrated natural ability for getting her clients excited about their brand and their potential in today's digital landscape. In addition to her professional accomplishments, she's involved in the Gainesville Junior League and American Heart Association. Britt's clients will tell you that you can count on Britt to give your brand the confidence that it needs in reaching the next level. So join me now as we welcome Britt Sawyer. Hello, Britt. Welcome to the Biz Communication Show.
Hi, how's it going?
Just great, just great. Wonderful to host you. And I believe a logical starting point would be for you to help us distinguish between two very common terms that we use daily, but I'm not sure if all of us know the difference. And give us the distinction, please, between marketing and sales. What does each one accomplish? What do we try to do with marketing? What do we try to do with sales? Just different from that.
Yeah. So oftentimes people think that they are interchangeable, but marketing has a lot more facets to it. We actually provide the supporting material so you can get in front of your prospects for that sales perspective of your business. Oftentimes marketing material that we create could be a rack card, your everyday business card that looks just like your brand and everything with it. This is marketing, but you're going to use it for sales. So we want to help provide your sales team with the appropriate marketing material to get your prospect excited about your business, about your products or your services that you sell. But the biggest thing is that understanding that marketing isn't just your logo, just your website. It's everything encompassing to bring cohesiveness to your brand so that you can provide those materials to your sales team to get out in front and sell and sell and sell and sell.
That's a helpful clarification. So marketing in many ways is the forerunner of sales. It prepares our brand for the sales process. Now,
exactly.
That brings up something else that I think we need some clarification on, and that's the word I just mentioned, brand. When I was a kid and watching cowboy movies, one of the things you'd see in every cowboy movie would be branding. They would brand their cattle so that if rustlers came and got their cattle, they could identify them later on, recapture them because of the brand. And in a way, I suppose the brand is our identity. It's what distinguishes us from others in our profession. Elaborate on that for us, please.
Well, I kind of want to have it's a funny thing. I want to tell you a little story. So the history behind Sawyer Media Group, it all started with my husband's grandfather, Gordon Sawyer, who established the family crest of the quarter circle S, which you'll see in some of my branding elements that I've brought forward. But the funny story behind that is that quarter circle S brand was actually an actual branding that they used on the cattle that they had out in Texas.
How about that?
Yes. So, when I married into this family, I always loved the quarter circle S. It's on anything and everything that you see at their family cabin, all the way to where I'm at right now in the Sawyer house on Green Street. And when I started Sawyer Media Group in the Sawyer house, I really wanted to bring that into the actual branding of Sawyer Media Group. And so we've incorporated the quarter circle S in our logo mark. So oftentimes your branding, you've got different variations of your logo. So you've got your primary logo, which I'm going to bring my business card out again because it's the easiest way.
Okay.
But this is my primary logo. And we've got this vertical version, a horizontal orientation of it as well. But then there's also the logo mark, which right off of the bat I don't have, but on any of our social media channels in my profile photo is that quarter circle S. So we really wanted to bring that in. Other elements of your branding isn't just your logo, what people see, but it's also the supporting elements. So your brand encompasses your brand narrative. So how you speak to people, what your brand voice is, your mission, vision, values, all of those encompass that brand development piece. It also translates over to your website, social media, any marketing materials that we went through as well. But branding, it's that cohesive feeling that makes everything consistent. It's what's going to be just seen through all of your material that you see whenever you send it out to any of your clients, your internal team. Oftentimes, branding isn't just that logo that we try to communicate to people, that it's the whole pie, it's the whole picture, all of those items put together.
Well, I think it's fascinating that I first mentioned cattle branding, and you said that.
I know, I saw that question. I thought, oh my gosh, I have the best story for it.
Yes,
so,
that tied in with the history of your company. And also along with this, I think from all the sessions that I've been to where we were being trained in our marketing and our promotion, our brand needs what we call a universal selling proposition. And you mentioned, you hinted at that a minute ago when you said that our brand is what we tell people. And so how do you help your clients come up with that? It has to be catchy, it has to be memorable, it has to be reflective of what you do, and yet it can't be too it can't sound too artificial. So how do you help somebody get the right universal proposition of what they do?
Yeah, so it's actually a really fun exercise that we do with our clients. So we call it our brand narrative piece. And it is an extensive exercise where my content creator sits down with the client, has some Q&As with them. It is an interview, understanding, what your mission is, what your vision, your values. And we actually create a very extensive document that has several areas. So you've got your tone of voice, which is how you're going to speak to somebody. You've got some brand guardrails that say, I'm responsive yet what's the right word, responsive yet respectful. So you're not inundating their inbox with lots of stuff, but you are responsive to them. Your mission statement, so we help kind of condense that down, help them refine it a little bit more, because oftentimes businesses have an idea of what their mission statement is, but it's a little too wordy. So we bring that down. We also will come up with your brand credo, which can be used on outward facing material, but it is that internal. What is your why? Why are you in business? Who do you serve? What do you do? And it's just condensed into a little paragraph. And from there, that's where we come up with that unique selling proposition. So, or that universal proposition, whatever, you can say it however you want. But within that exercise, we're able to pull out those big taglines or things that are really important that we can pepper through any of our marketing material or on your website. And so, that exercise oftentimes allows us to really get to know the client and their business, and then come up with the best selling point that they need to use internally or externally.
One of the things that I've noticed as I listen to people give their identity, try to do it in a sentence or two, there are two faults that I often find. One is that it's too lengthy. It's several sentences. It almost sounds like a monologue. And then the second one that I often find is that it it sounds contrived. It's not in ordinary conversation. And so I
Mhm.
would imagine these are a couple of points that you work with your clients on. Make it
Mhm.
sound very conversational. Don't
Yeah,
let it
and
sound like a canned speech.
that's where that brand voice comes into play too. Sometimes you go to a website that is very, proper, or it sounds really professional. For like an attorney, you need better some more professional terms. But if you go to like another basic small business site, you can kind of get that brand voice. But that brand voice really helps the user know how to communicate to you, and that can really help you curate the right content that's going to be speaking to the correct clientele. And so that exercise that we do have really allows us to understand how you're going to speak to your potential customer as well. One thing my example is, if you go to an attorney site, they're going to say, "Hey, you know, we're really glad to talk to you today." And then you could go to some small business, or I've just launched called Gammy's Goodies, and we use y'all on there. It's that conversational, so you're able to really understand that personality, and a lot can come through how you speak to somebody with your words, and not necessarily what the graphics look like.
Very true. Okay, you mentioned something that I suppose every person who's serious about promoting their business needs, and that's a website. We need your
Mhm.
tips on websites. I remember so well, Britt, several years ago, there was a friend of mine who said it with a smile on his face. He said, "Oh, I know I've got a great website. I've looked at it 1,000 times." Well, we can't really judge ourselves what our
Mhm.
website needs, because we are strongly biased about our own work. So when you're working with a client, let's say that you're helping them build a website
Mhm.
initially. What are 3 or 4 of the key components that that website will need?
Yeah. So when we build websites and we come into a project, it's a very collaborative approach. I've got a team that we're very well versed in different areas. So, there's just a handful of areas that we do focus on. So one is the back end, looking at Google Analytics, what their SEO, search engine optimization values are. Are they showing up on Google results? We sometimes will do a website audit, so we can install a certain tool that allows us to look at some heat mapping options, where people scrolling on their site, really understanding what their customers are doing on that specific website. From there, our design team will create a website or design a website, usually custom designed, that is really taking that information that we've gathered from just the analytics and putting it into a user flow that is how your customer is going to use it. So one person that's visiting, an attorney's website is going to use it differently than somebody that's shopping on Amazon. There's different ways that we're looking. So we need to know what the objectives are. And that does take a lot of work with the client as well, letting us know, what is the end game? What do they really want? Do they want people to give them phone calls to order? Do they want to schedule an appointment online? It's just those different things that we really need to talk through with it. But, I think for us, we kind of have the advantage because we are on the outside looking in on a website and giving them that third party
You're
view of
objective
how
about it.
somebody, yes. So it's not, like you said, if I'm looking at my own website, I think it's amazing, but you might not be using it correctly, or you might not be using it the way I thought you were going to be using it. So that's why we need to use certain tools that are already out there, that can help us glean that information and really create something that's user friendly, it's functional, it's clear, it's concise, and really helps users get to where you want them to click at the end of the day.
I want to bounce off of your word concise, because
Mhm.
to me, this is something many of us don't follow. We think the more we put about ourselves, about our qualifications, our clients, our testimonials, what we offer, our value, our services, the more we do, the more likely we are to get
Mhm.
clients and responders. The fact is, I became aware only recently, and I think you would know this percentage. What percentage of people who view our website are viewing it not on a large screen, but they're viewing it on their smartphone. What percentage would that be?
Yeah, it's about 60% of people are going to be using their mobile device versus using it on a desktop.
That's what the number I had heard recently. And that tells us that being concise, saying it quickly, saying it simply, having a lot of white space if we need it, and just a much shorter one. How many times is somebody going to scroll on their phone to look at an elaborate, lengthy website? So being concise is very important. And then another point that I've come across in the last few years is that your website pretty is not what does it. Flashy is not what does it.
No.
It's the content that meets the viewer's needs. Would that be your viewpoint?
Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting mix. It's an interesting percentage that I think 80 to 90% of people judge your website on what it looks like or when they land and how it functions. And they're only going to they're going to be able to pick up on that within like half of a second. So
that's quick. That's very quick.
Yeah, it's very quick. Yes. And it's a big number of people that are going to bounce off of your website if they don't like the way it looks or the way it functions. But like you had mentioned, being more concise with what your calls to action are, what you're describing your services as, utilizing, imagery or video content appropriately that isn't too lengthy. I think people, the term pictures are worth 1,000 words. I do think that does still hold true to this day. And the other thing too is like people can understand if you're using stock imagery versus authentic, professional photos that you took yourself. So investing in those areas, because people they're not dumb anymore. They know what's curated, they know what is authentic, and they know what's fake. So really creating that website that is speaking to them and getting them to create a really quick relationship with you is important, and it's key. And again, like you said, it's keeping your message concise. It's got some clear call to actions, and it's easy to scroll and it loads quickly. It's functional. I just can't drive those home any harder than I can right now. So
Britt, you have given us some marvelous tips and guidelines, and I knew you would because I had the opportunity previously to interview you on North Georgia Business Radio X, radio show, and that was when I became more thoroughly acquainted with your services. I know that many of our viewers on YouTube and our listeners on podcasts would like to get in touch with you, so please share your contact information with us.
Yeah, so you can visit our website at www.sawyermediagroup.com. There you can see who we are, what our services are, who we've worked with. We've got some great features of just past work that we've done. You can also give me a call, 770-845-5661, or email me directly at Britt, BRITT, at Sawyer, SAWYER, mediagroup.com.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your time with us today and these very helpful recommendations. And Britt, since you've given your contact information, I'm happy to give mine. Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy. So logically, my website is that's B-I-Z, bizcommunicationguy.com. I invite you to check my services for corporations and leaders. Give me a call and let's talk about your communication challenges and how I can help you find solutions to them. Thanks again to Brit Sawyer. Britt, any closing 20-second comment, please?
Our biggest motto here is to be proud of what you've built and go all in. So part of that is investing in your marketing, and we're here to help you go all in on your brand.
Excellent. And I highly recommend Brit Sawyer's services. Thanks again to those of you who joined us on YouTube and on the podcast. Be with us again next week, please, for another edition of the Biz Communication Show. I'm your host, Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy.